And now we go to the first speaker for the opposition to introduce the opposition's argument in tonight's debate, Umar Ziam.
Thank you, Mr. President, and may I thank the Literific for putting in the hard work to organise this very important debate. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. President, we on the opposition are simply here to make the case, what we believe to be a complete no-brainer in a liberal democracy, and especially in a university, namely to make a case for the principle of free speech and to oppose a principle which we believe to be completely antithetical to all that our society and our country stands for. Mr. President, we do not believe, I doubt anyone else on the proposition believes, that private organizations should be forced to platform or deplatform certain speakers. We simply are here to speak against the principle that they should be no platformed for holding certain beliefs or expressing certain views. Setting aside that freedom of speech is one of the most important, if not, and one of the most fundamental, if not the most fundamental rights and liberties in a liberal democracy, we ask you to question what the policy of no platforming is meant to achieve. What implications would it have on the nature of public debate should it be allowed to prevail? What effect would it have on extremist ideas in our society? Besides the obvious limitations on free speech, namely an incitement to violence or criminality, we ask how stifling free speech to the extent that the motion proposes would serve our liberal democratic society. It is often argued by those who support the motion that no platforming is a method of countering extremist ideas and supporting progressive ones. But I ask, what better way of doing so than through the mode of free public discourse and debate? When the leader of the British National Party, a dubious character known for his less than tasteful views by the name of Nick Griffin, appeared on the popular BBC talk show Question Time, it was asked why on earth the BBC would have on their programme such a vile and hateful man. However, when Mr. Griffin appeared on Question Time and had his views subjected to the rigours of public debate, his party's popularity and his hateful message were ripped to shreds. Mr. Griffin and his party, having garnered over 1 million votes and being an MEP, being a member of the European Parliament, went to being sidelined into obscurity, having his views exposed and torn apart in the platform
on that point
of public debate. No, thank you. I would therefore, ladies and gentlemen, ask you to consider the dangers that no platforming would cause. What would happen if such dangerous and extremist ideas as those held by Nick Griffin were allowed to spread and fester, untested, unchecked by the rigours of public debate? It is perhaps a matter of great irony that those who support the cause of no platforming would actually consider themselves progressive and would actually stifle the very freedom that allowed for that progress which they espouse as their own to come to pass, using the same tactics as those who opposed progress to stifle it. Think of how offensive it was when to many people of the Catholic faith when Galileo Galilei shattered the Copernican astronomical consensus at the time that the sun was at the center of the universe and defied the teachings of the Roman Catholic Church. How offensive would it have been at one point in this very part of the world to demand the emancipation of Catholics and equal rights for Irish Catholics? How offensive would it have been in Victorian society, Edwardian society, to demand universal suffrage and indeed to many, many people around the world at a time? How offensive would it have been to argue not even 100 years ago that the persecution of homosexuals and the lawful sanctions imposed against them, such as imprisonment and basically mental torture, was inhumane? How offensive would it have been for Martin Luther King in the 1960s to have marched in Selma, Alabama, demanding equal civil rights for African Americans?
On that
All
point,
these social movements that I've mentioned would have been met with the most strongly felt offence and calls to no platform or even imprison the people who supported these causes, as in the case of Martin Luther King and Galileo. At the very heart of this debate appears to be a stark disagreement as to what it means to give someone a platform. Those of the no platforming disposition appear to be of the notion that a platform is some sort of endorsement of a person's entire character. However, allowing this principle would fundamentally debase the very purpose which is of debate, which is fundamentally to do with points of disagreement. It would effectively turn a debate into some strange head-nodding contest where no serious points or contentious points are made and no real disagreements are had.
On that point,
therefore be made clear, no thank you, that a platform is foremost a test of ideas and character rather than an endorsement of it. On the opposition of this very debate, we have Baroness Claire Fox, a former member of the Revolutionary Communist Party who has been criticised for her stance on the IRA. She speaks alongside Jamie Bryson, a loyalist activist whose views and activities have been heavily criticised in Northern Ireland. We have also Ella Whelan, a left-wing journalist for the Spiked, who debates alongside myself and Keir Crozier, both members of the diabolical evil Tory party. However, we have put our views aside and our convictions aside on this occasion to back a common cause, which we believe to be of vital significance to our society. It is also worth noting that a crucial aspect of public debate and discourse is further debased by the misguided idiocy of no platforming, namely that of the audience and the general public and individuals to make up their own minds on a controversial issue. If an idea is objectionable, it should surely follow that those objections should be made publicly so that individuals may retort and make their own minds up regarding an issue. It would seem that the proponents of no platforming have a view of the audience as though they're a group of pre-programmed robots who would simply be brainwashed if exposed to bad ideas. Ladies and gentlemen, cannot be trusted to hear extremist ideas. You might be turned into fascists or Nazis. The amount of credit given to the conscience and intelligence of the audience and the public is ignorant at best and deeply condescending at worst. The opposition, ladies and gentlemen, is on the in this debate is on the side of and places faith foremost in your ability to be able to hear and think for yourselves and determine for yourselves what is right and what is wrong. As for the argument made by some that some ideas are too offensive or too hurtful to be heard by members of the public, and especially minority groups, what could be more condescending to minorities to tell them that they're too weak and feeble and too emotional to hear arguments, to hear opinions that might cause them emotional distress? What could be more feeble? What could be more condescending? Mr. President, we on the opposition are here to defend one of the most hard-won and precious liberties that we have as human beings and as citizens of a liberal democracy. On that point, I beg leave to oppose this motion. Thank you.